this one line that I want to share with you guys, and it says, "I don't know what he felt, but I know what I felt. I felt enough to make me spend the next 10 years waiting and hoping that he would realize he had feelings for me. It never happened." Hello everybody, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Brooke if you're new here, and if you're not new here, you already know me. Today I'm going to be doing a writing video, and it's going to be about how I edit my work. So right now I'm in the process of editing my romance work in progress. It's a friends to lovers with a twist. I don't really know what to call it, but I am editing, and I have been for a little while. Editing is something that has always been very scary to me, scarier than writing the book itself. I find editing very challenging, and I'm just kind of wanting to share my process with people and not necessarily give you tips because I don't know what I'm doing. Maybe you guys can give me some tips in the comments. So I finally printed out my manuscript. There it is. I'm super excited to have it printed and on paper. It's just the best feeling ever. So that's the first thing I did basically when I felt like it was ready for a first read through. My editing right now is basically just consisting of figuring out the plot and the flow of the story and working on character development. I'm not doing any kind of like line editing. I'm not editing for grammar or anything like that. I'm really just trying to figure out the plot and the entire story and making it make sense as a story. I'm almost there. I'm just struggling a little bit with the middle, but that will be fixed soon, hopefully. So I printed out my manuscript. A couple tips for this. If you are planning on editing directly on your manuscript, print it out double-spaced with larger margins so that you can make notes, and possibly consider printing it out in a bigger font than you normally would. Something that I did to save ink in the latter half of my printing, I printed it in draft. So when you print in draft, it prints it in a lighter color than it normally would. I printed out the first half and it was so freaking dark and it was using up so much of my ink, and then I printed the rest of it in like draft setting or whatever. So it printed it way lighter, and you can still read it, it's still legible, totally fine, but it saves you a ton of ink. I did not print mine double-spaced. I did not widen the margins because I'm not making edits on here right now. I did a little bit of highlighting, and I am doing a little bit of note-taking on here, but not anything substantial. So that was that. I stapled each one of my chapters so that they can be separated. You definitely don't have to do that, but that's what I wanted to do so that I could differentiate between kind of what was going on here. And yeah, that's the first step, and it's a very, very exciting step. So be excited about printing out your manuscript because it is huge. And no, I'm not just talking about the amount of paper that we have here. So I kind of just want to show you the tools that I'm going to use during this. So the first thing that I absolutely cannot live without are these pens. I have these Pentel RSVP pens. They're in 0.7 millimeter tip, and they are amazing. These pens are godlike. They're the only pens that I will use for writing and for work. I just ordered a bunch from Staples. So I have 5 blue ones, 5 black ones, and 2 red ones. So that's what I use. I mostly just use blue and black. Black for taking notes and red for actually editing on the manuscript. They're in this cute little pencil case that I got from Chapters. It says, "Life begins at the end of your comfort zone." It's this like faux leather thing. It's really, really cute. So that's that. The second thing that I use is a 5-star note binder. I've had this since like my first or second year university, and they have just gotten so expensive. I think they're like $20, but honestly, they're very, very functional and they're very cool. I love them. The next thing that I use are these. They're just little post-it flags, and I use them to mark areas in my story where I want to go back to or that I want to pay attention to, but I don't currently want to mark up right now since I said I'm not really marking up this manuscript. Not that much anyways. I've definitely broken the rule a couple times already, but oh well. And the last thing that I use is this. It's just a just a notebook. It's also 5-star. I don't know why I have so much 5-star stuff. It's unnecessarily expensive, but I like them. A sucker for that kind of thing. I love office supplies, so this is what happened. Oh, I guess my final thing would be a highlighter. I just dropped mine on the floor, but I'm gonna grab another one. Highlighter. I've been highlighting a little bit in place of marking it up with red pen. So anyways, I'm gonna just show you kind of what I do. So I start off with this. I'll show you how I've organized this. So the first section I have, it says edited. So anything that I've read through and made notes on, I'm gonna put in this sleeve. So I actually have done 7 chapters already. So I'm actually gonna slide those in here right now. So we have that. My second section is for the pages I need to edit, or the chapters I need to edit. So you can see here I wrote to edit, and I'm just gonna set the rest of my manuscript in there for now. I can't fit it in the pocket, I don't think. I think it's far too large for that. So I'm just gonna set it on top. And that's the great thing about the note binders, is that you can just almost use it as a folder. It just kind of expands as you need it to, and you don't really have to worry about hole punching anything, or really at all. Like, you don't have to hole punch anything if you don't want to. I also have a section for old chapters, if you can see that. So those are chapters that I've taken out during the editing process and that maybe I want to use later, or maybe not. Maybe I'm just hoarding them because that's what I do. And then I have another section for ideas. So this is a list of things that I think maybe could go in the story, or chapters that haven't necessarily been taken out of the story, but they have been written with no idea where they're gonna go. So that's basically what lies in this folder. So when I am doing my reading through my manuscript, I have my manuscript and then I have my notebook. So instead of making edits right on my manuscript, I will make edits in this notebook, and then I'll come back to it later to kind of figure out where I need to change things. So to give you an idea of what kinds of things I'm writing down, I'll go through my notes from the first few chapters, and you can kind of get an idea of the kind of things that I'm looking for. So you can see that this thing is super full. But that's great because it holds it all very well. So far, the kinds of things that I've noted down are any plot inconsistencies. So a lot of things have changed with my story, and I haven't gone and edited every chapter to reflect that. So if I'm reading through a chapter and I find something that doesn't work anymore because it actually, say it never happened. So one thing is, things in the beginning chapters changed a lot, but the later chapters haven't been changed, so they still refer to things that went on in the earlier chapters, and I've noted that down so that I can take it out and replace it with something else. So for example, in the beginning of my notes here, I have chapter 1. So I have a section that's called Introduction of the Main Character. I talk about how we want to portray that she feels stuck in her job and kind of stuck in her life, and she doesn't know where she's going or what to do, and she feels very lost. So I wrote that down so that when I go back and I'm editing this first chapter, I can put more of that in there and let the reader know that this is kind of how our main character is feeling, and we're establishing the status quo. And so we introduce a problem for our main character in chapter 1. So she is in love with her best friend and he's getting engaged. So I wrote that down, not as an edit, but as a reminder, like, this is what we're describing, this is why we're describing it. There was someone's name that I needed to change, so I realized that he had the same name as another character, and I realized obviously I didn't want that. It wasn't the same name, but it was very, very close. So I had changed his name in the later chapters, but I didn't go back and change it in the first chapter. So his name is going to be changed. He's a pretty insignificant character until the end, but I still need to be consistent so that I don't go back and read it and be like, wait, is that 2 different people, or is it the same person? So I went back and I wrote down, we need to change this guy's name. And the name that I changed it to in the later chapters, I actually don't like, so I need a whole new name altogether to replace these 2 other names. I talk about the introduction of a couple other main characters, so we introduce our main character's best friend and, both of her best friends. One of them is the best friend, she's a girl, the other one is the best friend / love interest, which is a guy. And I just kind of outline key points and talk about what I could do better. So I need to describe her love interest a little bit better, at least establishing his kind of core features, so maybe how tall he is, his build, a little bit about his face, bone structure, whatever, hair color, eye color. I didn't think that I did enough of that in chapter 1. I think I kind of skimmed over it a little bit when I was writing. I didn't describe him in enough detail, so that's something I need to go back and fix. Something that I noted in here that isn't something I have to fix, but it's something that I really like, is that I was already establishing how close they are as a pair, and not only in a friendly way, but also in a little bit of a romantic way, even if it's maybe unintentional. It's just kind of how close they've gotten through their years of being friends, and I really like that and how I established that early on because it's really important for the story. So that's kind of chapter 1. Chapter 2, I was concerned about the start of the chapter. Should I start it differently? I wanted to make sure that we explain enough about our 2 main characters' relationship and how they became good friends like this. I realized that we need to decide on what our guy main characters, whatever, best friend / love interest, what he does for a job, because I've kind of alluded to what he does, but I actually realized that I don't really know what he does, and I'm probably gonna have to use it later on in the story and describe it more, so I really need to figure out a career for him. Something else, I have some not so great language in here, so I want to decide if I'm gonna follow through with that or if I'm gonna take it out altogether. I think I'm gonna keep it in because this isn't YA, it is adult, and I mean, I just don't know how much of it I can have, so that is something I need to figure out as well. But that's basically what I've been looking at while I'm editing. I also have my computer right here just to make small changes to the draft on the computer. During this read through, I really haven't been making any changes to the drafts that I have on the computer, but if something is urgent and I do need to do it, it's here and I can. The things that I've highlighted on my manuscript are things that I really, really liked. So there were some lines that I just really thought were great. There were some scenes that I thought were really good. And there was this one line that I want to share with you guys, and it says, "I don't know what he felt, but I know what I felt. I felt enough to make me spend the next 10 years waiting and hoping that he would realize he had feelings for me. It never happened." So this is something that I just really, really, really loved, and I highlighted it because I wanted to keep it in, and even if I go back and I question it and I'm like, what was I thinking? Why did I love this so much? Right now I'm telling myself that I loved it. So I'm telling myself not to go back and second guess myself. But that's basically my editing process. So right now, like I said, I'm trying to just figure out major plot points and make everything flow correctly and things like that. There's no grammar editing, no line editing, nothing like that. It's all kind of like bigger picture stuff. I definitely will be printing out a second copy once I have made all of these changes and made it into a real cohesive thing. But I think that I will not print that version out at home. I will probably get that draft printed somewhere like Staples. So I would love to know in the comments how you guys edit your manuscripts. If you have any tips for me, or if you liked anything that I do in this video, please let me know. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!